They love us.
They're all around
They
us.
penetrate us.
They love.
Mm.
What are you, Herbert?
I'm pretty Herbert.
The force is all around us.
Penetrate.
Penetrates us.
In lieu of last week, a little light, a little brevity. I listened back to that, and I honestly think some of my opinions changed, even listening to myself talk. But it was,
About comedy?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's definitely we're gonna need to do.
we're gonna
not
need
the
to-
same topic, but I
Yes.
think we focus so heavily on the negative side,
Yeah,
where like that's not normally what we think about comedy.
right.
It's just the question kind of demanded that sort of discussion. But I think we could definitely talk about the other side of comedy, like what do we like about it? Why do we like comedy so much?
I think it was I know I made a statement about like the idea of like offensivity and like how like really great and widespread that line is, but then there was like a joke that someone made in a YouTube video or something, and I laughed at it, and it was like something that certain people would be uncomfortable with, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I'm not laughing because it's like ha at the expense. It's the, oh my gosh, I'm laughing because that person said it in the context and how they presented it was so obnoxious and out of character for the situation that's what made that awful statement funny. And it's like interesting. It's so complex, and I don't think there's a just
I don't think we did.
Reiterate.
I mean, I think we did the
said
question
last
justice last week, but I think there's a lot more that can go into it that we just
that's a
didn't
whole
have
topic.
time.
I took a class on comedy actually.
Really?
In college, yeah.
I would love that.
It was film comedy. It was like there was a lot of theory in it, which wasn't super engaging or fun.
I feel like as soon as you start dissecting comedy, then it's not funny anymore.
Which
is why people having to explain their jokes is like self-defeating, because it's like if you have to explain the joke, nobody like, it's no longer a joke anymore because you're validating the fact that it like has meaning.
Right. I will say I think it was very eye-opening to hear, or at least process through what could potentially be things that if you were to critically analyze why something was more hurtful to you versus something. So like, for example, we looked at Borat, and our professor was convinced, and it was funny because it's at UW, it's like a very liberal university. He was convinced that, and he gave a really good argument about it, but that Borat is one of the funniest comedies like ever. And he said the reason is like because we had to watch certain movies for class, and we discussed it in lecture, and he said that what this movie did is it subverted so many like cultural things, but in the context of a spoof, but in a spoof that was like a hidden camera. So you have all these people who really truly think and believe these things, and then you have this guy who really doesn't believe or think or isn't any of these things, but he knows them, and he knows what's going to sound really awful, and so he's like, I'm so convinced that you're totally right, and like I'm so convinced that I'm going to like agree with all these ridiculous things that they, and then, you know, I mean, you have Sacha Baron Cohen's
Have you seen
new
any
show.
of his new show?
I saw some of the clips that they've released.
One of them, he gets Dick Cheney to sign a waterboarding kit. And another one, he gets like a bunch of senators to like endorse kindergartens.
Yes.
Guns with plushies
Dude,
on it.
That I was dying. I saw it at my desk because I think Philly D was talking about it. I was cracking. I was laughing so hard. But one of the ones that I laughed the hardest was this past week, I think, where he did one with Roy Moore.
Oh,
he's like,
God.
Israel has created. He's like, yeah.
He's like, I think it's
Israel's created a pedophilia tester, and he's like, you wave it over, and he like waves it over him, and it's like, beep, beep, beep. He's like,
it's just the way he sets it up though. Like he makes it sound so serious, and then he's like, of course, neither of us are pedophiles or rapists, and he's like,
look,
no beep, and then he puts it over him, beep, 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 beep. And he's like, he looks at it like weird.
That's strange. It does not know. And then just how it's just,
and he
so
gets his
funny.
other guy to come in. He's like, hey, come in here. He tested on him, nothing. Tested on Roy Moore. And Roy Moore's like, I've never been accused of anything. I'm leaving now. And he's like, I'm not accusing you.
He's like, it is broken. I'm sorry. And it's like this fake tech. It's just, but see, that was the point that he was making, our professor was making about Borat of what he does, is it's like everyone who's watching knows it's a joke. That doesn't exist. But the way he responds is like, I've never been accused of anything. You're being accused by a fake toy. Like, that's what's happening here. It's not actually real, you idiot. But then he goes, it was just,
I watched
other
like
one,
a clip of like the top cringiest moments in the one where he's like at the rodeo and he's singing
that's so
Kazakhstan is the greatest and all other countries are girls and they're all like
potassium. Yeah, it's like,
or like they're at the cage match and that's from Bruno. They're at the cage match and then him and the guy like start making out and like in the middle of the ring, and it's like all these rednecks who are like wanting a fight. It's these two gay dudes like making out, and they're like throwing their beer through the cage and stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's just that. It's just amazing to see the people who actually legitimately like think and believe the stuff that they do in those movies that he makes, and then like, or like when he does the comedy thing in Borat. And he's trying to teach him how to tell a joke. And he's like, so sometimes we do subversion jokes. So you'll say like, my shirt is black, but it's actually red. So I'll say, my shirt is black, not. And then he's like, my shirt is not black. Like, no. It's my shirt is black. Pause. Not. My shirt is black. Pause. Not. It's just like, it's.
Oh gosh.
I laugh every time I watch that movie. Comedy Gold.
I need to figure out a way to watch his actual show.
I've been seeing clips. I really want to
like
watch
there was
it.
one where he's an NPR guy and he's like battle rapping.
Oh,
he's like a super lefty like NPR guy, or he as that character he's like presenting to this like small town in Arizona like a new economic development, and he reveals that it's a mosque. And the things these people say are terrible. They're like, we have black people here and we just tolerate them. Like, they're lucky to be here. He's like, yeah, you're right. They're lucky to be here. He's like, no. I want to clarify. Like, they're lucky to be here. And he's like, oh.
Oh my god!
Like the guy went out of his way to clarify that he was racist.
Dude, I love it because that is the kind of show that we need right now. Because I think this is the thing. To just harken a little bit back to the previous episode, I'm also going this way because I know we don't have as much to dive into, but I feel like with a lot of the stuff that's getting thrown around of allegations of like, oh, everyone's racist and there's all this stuff. It's like, this is the problem I have with those statements of like, well, there's all this and everyone's racist. It's like, no, there are people who are insensitive and are just stupid and they just like see a stereotype and they're like, that's funny. So it's funny for me too. There's also people who are legitimately racist, and it's like, there is a spectrum. One is a little more harmless in the sense that it's like you grew up in like northern Wisconsin, like you don't know anything. So maybe don't say anything because you're stupid, but like don't say anything. We'll deal with you. But then there's the people who are like
go out of their way to ensure people know that they don't.
I need you to understand that I don't like people who do not share my skin color. It's like I don't know how you exist in this modern world. Like you just must be.
The clip, you need to see the clip because he announces he's like the biggest mosque outside of the Middle East, and it's like all these like small town Arizona people. They're like, what? And they're like, you see the problem with that is once you get the mosque, then you get Muslims coming in. Like our city, like what do we need a mosque for?
Oh my gosh!
I need to figure out a way to watch that show. It looks so funny.
Oh, that was my point. That show is needed right now because I think it's exposing what true levels of stupidity, intolerance, and racism are, not just the like ethereal Twitter definitions of those words. Yeah. Where it's like, well, this person made a joke and it made hurt my feelings. They're racist. Versus like
somebody who
there's someone who literally doesn't like you because you're not the same ethnicity as them.
Yeah,
like, that exists.
Yeah, I like those kinds of things because it's just like letting people expose themselves. Like
exactly.
He sets up the scenario and then the person basically like just says what they think.
Right.
Like the guy where he gets him to scream the N-word and then like he's like anti-terrorism measure.
Oh, that and he's gotta like
you
chase
drop
his
your pants
butt.
and you chase him down and you threaten the homosexual.
Did you actually watch the full clip of that?
I did, yeah.
That had me.
That guy actually resigned. I was like, wow, this show is making waves.
That was amazing. But it was that kind of thing where I watched that clip with that dude and I was like, you should. Like, if you're dumb enough to
how
be
is that dude a senator?
Yeah, it's like, how are you a senator?
Yeah.
How in this world and then this is like the thing that you're like, anti-terrorism measure, chase them around with your bare buttocks. It's like, yeah, get out of here. Yeah. It's just like running in circles around them.
Yeah. Or he gets him to impersonate a Chinaman, and he's just like, oh, I'm like, whoa.
You're like, dude. What?
Like, even if like some random dude asked you to do this, like, why would you do that?
A logical person would be like,
I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that because that's horrible.
Yeah.
And then you're like, correct, you win. You made it past, are you racist or not? It's just like, oh gosh.
Oh gosh.
It's funny. We could go on that for a whole nother episode, but
yeah,
I saw that on your list and I thought
episode.
it was apropos. Yeah. But dude, we should do a Sasha show. He's
I need to watch Bo Red again.
Do you remember his whole thing with Eminem where he like landed on him?
That was one of the cringiest moments where he's like in his like angel bodysuit and you can like see his bare buttocks. Yeah. And he's like, oh, he like pretends to fall right on top of Eminem.
Dude, he was so mad.
And Eminem afterwards claimed that he was in on it, but like you could clearly tell he wasn't.
No, he was
he
not.
Was so ticked off.
No, he was so mad.
And I was like, this is
or he's just that good at being real angry.
I mean, he does seem like he's angry all the time.
Yeah, he does. He just seems like a miserable guy. Like he needs a little sunshine in his life.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Coming at you with the fire, with the Eminem, White Rabbit.
There was I saw another part where it was Ollie G, his character, was interviewing a feminist, and he was like, his character was like very degrading towards women, like intentionally.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't get how you can think like this, like, and she was getting so offended by it, and he's like, no, but like, you know what I mean though, like, yeah. And he like tries to explain it in a rational way, but it's like. I digress.
We need to watch Ali G, Borat, and a bunch of other those.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to watch the show.
Yeah,
because he said it has nothing. He said the finale of the show is just like you won't believe it. I feel like he got Trump. I feel like he did something with Trump,
dude.
And I'm excited to see what happens.
If so, help me God. If our president got impeached because he was on a fake Borat like Borat-esque TV show, I would lose my mind. I would probably be crying laughing for weeks. Like, oh gosh, the stuff that he's done already, and then like if
I'm interested to see what he did with Sarah Palin, because she was one of the ones calling him out. Roy Moore was the one of them calling him out. So it's gonna be interesting.
I just think they're all dumb. Like, you're just stupid. Like, if you're that dumb to just be like, oh yeah, this guy totally is legit. And, oh yeah, these things that he's asking, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And the funny part is, like, he did one with Bernie, and Bernie just didn't bite at all. Bernie was like, he basically like treated him like he was his grandkid or something. He was like, oh, that's a nice idea. Like, that's cool. Because he's like saying how we should just take the 99% and bring them into the 1%. And Bernie's like, okay.
But it's like, but that's the whole thing, is like, he didn't, I don't know.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we need to watch it and maybe do an episode on it.
Correct.
We'll do a follow-up comedy episode. So
we did an intro.
What?
We did an intro.
We need an intro?
We should say.
What up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Pop Culture Punks podcast, where we bring pop culture to pit. This week we'll be diving into the grimy world of microtransactions.
Grimy world.
DLC.
The underworld.
Are all MTX evil, or is there a world where we can have both good games and microtransactions? Do DLC bolster our games, or give developers reasons to be lazy and money hungry? Back at you.
Did you phrase that? Yeah. Back at you, Josh.
I did phrase that, yeah. I'm trying. I'm trying a little bit harder.
No, I like that. Was
Thanks.
Good. I'm telling you, it was like 60 minutes right there. I'm
Boom.
Phil. And this is the Pop Culture Punks podcast.
Little theme song.
But it's got to be like one of those news ones. Where it's
the
like,
news with Phil.
Hi, this is Phil Sorensen coming in on another episode of the Pop Culture Punks.
Pop Culture Punks.
I feel like that's like 90s radio show. Like, Pop Culture Punks.
Hey, Pop Culture.
Hey, this is Phil Sorensen coming at you from the Pop Culture Punks podcast. We are live and in
funny
charge.
Story.
Yes.
Evan has been watching this new show called Rules of Engagement.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Which it started out cheesy, but it's actually kind of funny now.
With
and it's got him in it. Yeah, Patrick Warburton. Yeah.
With David Spade. David.
And Evan's like, I'm watching the show. I'm like, I look at in the thumbnail. I'm like, is that the Hey Peter guy? And she's like, I don't know. Like I was just watching it. I couldn't hear the voice when I was watching it on campus, and I was like, turn it on, and like right into it, he's like, hey. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Hey Peter.
He's actually pretty funny.
David, what are you David?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
So yeah, that's pretty funny.
Holy crap, it's Peter.
And he's in it, so.
Hey Peter.
So we don't have a ton of pop culture updates this week, but we did just
I do have. I just we did
something?
have a.
We went on a spree with Pokemon Go.
We did. I did have. We have a new addition to the Redbubble lineup, which is a pixel art version of our logo. So doesn't say Pop Culture Punks or anything. I thought that just kind of like took away from it. So it is just a pixel art version of the Pop Culture Punks logo. Just kind of throwback to that OG style, y'all.
OG style.
You know what I'm saying? Those 8-bit era days.
Bringing pop culture back to the bit.
I'm sure the 80s had some gnarly pits, dude.
Not the pit, the bit.
The bit?
Bring it back to the bit. Bring it back to the bit.
I like it. Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's dope. I'll check that out. I didn't even know you released that.
I just did.
I saw the design, so.
I was bored, so I
need to get another shirt.
I do too.
Because I like wearing that shirt around, so people ask me about it.
I want to get. I need to finish. I have the design queued up to do the do it for the pod. So
do it for the pod.
Do it for the pod. So I can show you that one after this.
Sounds dope. So yeah, we went on
Pokey extravaganza.
I caught like 8 or 9 scythers in like a span of 5 minutes.
Yeah,
which was a blast.
It was nuts.
And then we did a raid. We shredded a Alolan Executor.
Phil shredded a
yeah, I pulled most of the weight in that, but we both beat him and we caught him, so that was clutch.
My party literally got wiped out, and as I finished healing everybody, I logged back in, and Phil's like, "Let's go," and I was like, "All right, well, here we go."
So yeah, that was fun.
Perks
of being a wallflower.
Perks of being executor.
Perks of
flower.
Being a killer.
Stop
Actually,
it.
my name is not a vapor on.
Stop.
I kind of want to change it because I don't really use that name anymore, but I don't know what to change it to, and you only get one time to change it. So
you should change it to. What was your rap name from that episode we did with Tom? I can't remember.
I didn't have one.
Zach
was the host, so I didn't
Slow
give
Shark.
one.
I was oh nuts. What was I? I don't remember.
I feel like I got it written down in one of my notebooks, so I'll have to find it someday because that was pretty funny.
That was really funny.
It was like Slow Shark, aka something, and then T-Bone something. It was like
T-Bone something or other. I would love to do a like if we start doing more intro clips to do like a rap on our topic. Like
That'd
if we
be
did a
fun.
microtransactions like diss rap.
Ooh,
diss rap.
I'd do that.
Yo, coming at you live,
Beastie Boy style. Microtransaction think it ruined my game.
Nah, dog, this is the new school. We ain't the same. Like just like,
oh god,
micro, get out. Anyway,
transactions.
Micro
transactions.
A
couple other things I did. I watched Thor: Dark World last night with Evan.
What did you think?
Actually, that was good.
Yeah,
I think compared to the first one, it was actually a good movie. The
Yes.
first one was like too disjointed because they shoehorned the relationship-y
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it's
This one it felt more natural
Yep.
because the relationship was already a thing. And the story felt good. I like that they kind of established the mythology a little more and all that stuff. So it's kind of fun. I think up next is Winter Soldier, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
sick.
That's a good one.
It's one of the best.
Yeah.
I would say.
And then after Evan went to bed, I watched Dogma, which was good.
Dogma.
I told you about that earlier. So by Kevin Smith.
I do. Is that on Netflix or
No, it's not
Hulu?
anywhere. You
Oh,
can't
it's-
stream
okay,
it or
you
anything.
gotta-
It was
gotta
in
buy it.
like the age where streaming was, or it was changing to digital, and for somehow it got caught in the middle, so it's not on any digital platforms.
Got it. Okay.
I rented it from the library. It was like,
Okay.
yeah,
I might
so-
I think iTunes has a rental thing, so
Yeah.
I'll probably do that.
But that was good. I've been on a Kevin Smith kick lately. He's fun.
I
to
love
watch.
that dude.
He just
Yeah.
likes. He's got like a whole podcast network and all that stuff. And he just likes to talk about pop culture, so it's kind of fun.
Well, he's just such a chill dude.
is.
Everything I've listened to him on, he's just like, he just seems like he'd be super down to earth and fun to talk to. Like
Yeah.
he's just like, I just love heroes, dude. Like
yeah,
it's cool.
exactly. So
Love it.
He's fun. He's been fun to listen to and watch. So yeah, that's the gist of it. So that's my pop culture. And you said you didn't really have much this week.
I played a little bit of Hollow Knight yesterday. It's still good. I think it's a lot harder. Even in just terms of exploration. Like there's a lot of things right now that I'm kind of stuck on where I don't want to look up guides because I want to get through it just because from what I've heard, the lore is so deep that I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil anything.
Because I feel like that takes away from that kind of game where it's not really a story, it's more lore that builds the story. I don't want to ruin anything because I feel like that kind of takes away, and that would make me less inclined to play it because it's like, oh, well, I already know, and I wouldn't have found this out until, a couple hours in. So, but it's still good. Like, I think I'm getting used to it a little more, like just the navigation and the mechanics and the actual platforming itself, and it's good. I really like it.
I'm kind of waiting for them to, I think they're planning on dropping a physical edition at some point.
Are they? I thought they said no.
Really? I thought I looked it up and I thought they said they were doing it.
I'd be all about that. I kind of want to pick up.
Because if they are, I was thinking about getting it then. Because then at least I could resell it or something if I end up not liking it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cheap. Like, I want to say it was either 15 or 20. I can't remember, though.
I should just try it on yours. Is there only one save?
I think there's multiple saves.
Okay. I could test it out. I'm afraid I'm not going to like it and not want to play it ever again. And then it's like $15 down the drain.
Sure.
So, nice.
Yeah.
Anything
and then
else?
a little bit of Fortnite. Gosh, I hate that game now. I just like it was fun while it lasted. Like, I played like a couple out, like probably like 10 hours last weekend.
Dang.
And it was a lot of fun. Like, I was actually genuinely enjoying it because I think I was actually trying. Whereas now I like got the battle pass this season because like some of the skins that they had were really, really cool. And I was like, this is the only time I'm probably ever going to see something that I actually am like, oh, that actually is a cool skin in this game. Like, I actually do want to get that. But playing it again last night, I played a couple matches. Like, I was just trying to complete challenges. And maybe it was because like I was trying to do all these challenges and some of them were like literally required you if I wanted to get it done quickly. It was just like fly out to the very edge of the map and just like get a bunch of stuff and build a bunch of crap and like do this and it just like wasn't not that part wasn't fun, but then it was always infuriating where I'm just trying to get these challenges so I can get the cool stuff
and people
but then
keep killing you.
Exactly. It's like I'm on literally the edge of the map and there's this one dude who happens to find the one pistol and kill me and I'm like, well, I gotta go back to the lobby and do this. And so I'm sure if I actually was sitting down to play and try and win, I would have a lot more.
It's more fun probably.
Yeah.
If you're playing the game.
Because I got first last week. At one point I felt pretty bad. Like, I wrecked. I only had 2 kills the whole game, and it was there was 3 of us left, and it was me, or 4. I killed the third place guy. So it's 4 of us. There was a guy who I saw build, and he didn't see me coming, and he built this platform where I could walk under it, and he couldn't see me, but his whole thing was walled, and had these like sticky grenade things. So I just lined the bottom of his thing with them, and I just like blew him out and just like basically duck hunted him as he was out. So I got him, and then a guy down at the bottom of the hill picked off the other guy that he was. So it was 2 of us. So I wasn't sure where he was, and the circle was in his favor, but I had this like grenade launcher thing. So I was kind of like looking, and I'm like, all right, I can either snipe him or I can go with this thing and just kind of see what happens. And so I'm like walking to the top of the hill to see, and I don't know if he was just cocky and he was like, like there's no way this fool's like gonna get me. Like, I have the upper hand, I have the best gear. And I'm like looking over the top, and all of a sudden I see him at the very bottom of the mountain. He can't see me. He's just like dancing like off in the distance, just doing his emote. So I was like, man, suck a fool. And I literally like 2 grenades. It was like a one hit. Like, I just nailed him square on, and I just saw the battle royale thing come up, and I was like, get bent, son.
That's hilarious.
So I felt pretty good about that. But
awesome.
Ever since then, playing it yesterday, I was just like, But what I did have a ton of fun playing again yesterday was Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
If you are a first person shooter fan, I've talked about this game before, but like you can probably get it for maybe $10 now if you really look for it. That shooter is so good. It's so fluid. It's so fast. You can maneuver everywhere. The maps are huge, but it feels small because you can actually get places really quickly.
They should have never released that game with Call of Duty and Battlefield on the same.
Yeah, that wasn't smart. Yeah. Because playing it now,
it's such a smooth,
it's so
fun,
good,
fast-paced game.
Yeah, and I think playing it yesterday, what sticks out to me that's really good is depending on the mode you play, there are grunts that spawn in different levels as the match goes on that are harder, that give you more points. And you could just farm grunts, get your Titan, and go Titan ham the entire rest of the match. If you last, it's hard to do. But there's always something to do or shoot or get to. And every time you die, the respawn is like almost instant. Like, I think it's like maybe a 1 second respawn. Like, you die, the screen comes up, and then second later you can tap X and you're back in.
Dang.
So it's like, so you're just flying through the game. So it never feels long, you know, or like you have to sit there for like 10-15 seconds before you get back in the match. So you can be a little more reckless, I feel like, and not feel like the punishment. Because I think that's what I enjoyed is I can actually rack up a pretty high kill streak in it. I think in my mentality, it's easier to be reckless in a game like that where there's less punishment for being reckless versus a Call of Duty or even, you know, other like a Fortnite where it's like if I die, I die and I have to go back out and relog this and I don't want to do that. So I'm less inclined to be aggressive. Whereas this, you can just go shotgunning around and it's wicked fun. So highly recommend it. It's,
nice.
Especially because it's probably so cheap now. Like new, I think you could get it for like maybe $20-$30 at like Best Buy or something. But then if you tried to get it on like eBay, you could probably get it for like $5 or $10.
Plus Xbox and PSN.
They have sales constantly.
Sales a lot where you can get it so cheap.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty much the extent of my pop
main
culture stuff
this week.
Picked up some books. Gloria and I are out of town next weekend, so we'll be I have Neuromancer by William Gibson and Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson to read. So I want to get in some cyberpunk. Yeah, get in some
stories. Get a lay of the land.
Yeah, I think from the summaries I've read of Snow Crash, I think I'm really gonna like it. It just sounds just bananas and like really obnoxious, but like very, very connected with how the world did and is predicted to progress in technology. So that's always exciting to hear that it's not a like, well, this is my take and I'm going to give this huge twist and like, this is what the technology actually is. So it'll be good.
Nice.
Stoked.
I have that one too. I need to read it at some point.
Ballin'.
Yep. Nice.
Little book club.
Little book club.
Book club action.
Book club podcast.
Book club.
So yeah, I had a couple of news things on here. There's the Venom trailer, which looks interesting. We had an interaction.
Imperius Rex cracked me up with that one.
That was hilarious.
They were like,
he's like, Phil, who's got a knife to your throat?
Like, this looks bad. That was fantastic. That was a great comeback.
I just tweeted out the meme like, I don't feel so good.
Yeah. I honestly watching it, I think I am thoroughly convinced it's going to be a really good 6.5. Like
6.5, 7, yeah.
And I say really good 6.5 because I've played other stuff where it's like that was a really like it should have been a 10, but it's a 6.5. Like this is it knows it's a 6.5 and it's gonna be a really good 6.5. It's not gonna be DC bad, but it's not gonna be Marvel amazing. So I think it's gonna be the fact that you have Tom Hardy as the head. I really enjoy him as an actor. I think he just does a great job, and so I think him in this role, he's always done good in these kind of like brute villain roles, and so I think that's going to be for the movie's benefit.
And it'll be interesting to see how they play with because Venom's like a pretty evil anti-hero,
right?
Like I've never really seen him be a hero in many instances, so it'll be interesting seeing him having to be a hero in some respects. And you can even from the trailers you can see that tension happening. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So
and
I'm excited for it. I'm excited
100%.
For DC movies though. So.
I think it's valid concern because there's other symbiotes that are famous in the Marvel line or the narrative with that are notorious for being pretty corny, and I think some of them are coming in like Riot. I think is one of them is the main villain. I'm sure we'll get a Carnage sneak peek or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But to me, I see it as like I totally validate any concern that like it could be cheesy because I could see that execution of the like villain having to be more of an anti-hero as coming across as really corny because it's like, well, we can't kill people because that's not the story we're trying to tell. And then that being the case where it's like at certain moments Eddie Brock is able to take control and like not kill people, or like at certain moments he's like, okay, we can kill this guy.
Yeah.
So I could foreseeing how that could navigate because I don't think they're going to be risky and tell like a really compelling, and I could be wrong. Like they could come out and have like a really, maybe Eddie just goes like, I did think that was one line in the trailer that was interesting. Like I thought it was in the trailer where he says like sometimes it feels like he's like it's okay or it's like it's good, this power. But so I could see that it could be really cool if they use this as like he is a fully good guy and then Venom does win at the end. I either want it Venom fully turns him completely evil at the end, or like he just completely turns Venom into an anti-hero. Like I don't want this like middle of like, well, we can kind of both coexist in this body, you know.
Yeah, like there's just always the tension.
Yeah, that would be cheesy to me.
I think it'll be interesting. I think it's hard to see Marvel movies exist outside of the MCU because you know what you could have if Sony would just give the license.
Just
to
would like
Disney.
not be Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic Sony.
I'm excited for it, but I'm excited for Aquaman and all these other movies that other people are off the hype train for. So
Aquaman.
Yeah. It looks good to me. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be better than what has been.
Did you see the video where they put the Black Panther trailer next to the Aquaman trailer, and it's literally cut for cut?
Really?
The exact same.
I didn't see that.
It's the exact same thing.
That's hilarious.
Not speaking hyperbole at all. It is the exact same.
I need
cut.
to see that.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
It's pretty funny.
So, yeah. Other thing that ticked me off, which I'll leave a couple of these out, but the one that will kind of transition into what we're talking about, the Spyro trilogy that's coming out. Apparently, only the first game is actually on the disc, and you have to download the other 2 games, like from online or whatever. Like you get them for free, but you have to download them.
I do not understand that.
Ticks me off because like
I didn't know that.
10 years from now, like you buy Spyro used, like do you still get 2 and 3 or?
Yeah, this is the first time I heard of it, so I think that's why I'm like, what?
You're just like, wait, what?
But to me, it's like the only thing I could see you not doing that for is Far Cry 5 did that with Far Cry 3, where if you got the legendary mega pack or whatever, but it was still in development, so they're like, yeah, you'll get it for free, but like,
and that's also not the game you're buying.
Exactly,
like, you're buying Far Cry 5.
I'm buying these 3 games, so why in the world are they not on the disc? And there's no excuse for them not to be. Like, you're gonna tell me that this game is so big and so remastered that we need to put? No, that's hogwash. Like Crash Bandicoot had all 3. Yeah. Well, Crash Bandicoot had all 3 on one disc.
Exactly.
So like, why on earth is Spyro all of a sudden that's really frustrating. And I know they're gonna pull some crap where it's like you do have like a download code on the inside of the box, so it's like, well, you can't sell it. Like, it's gonna be,
you're literally giving me 1 game and then the other 2 games. Like, sure, I'm getting all 3 for the price, but like,
that's some hokey business. Like that to me, I don't know what the defense is of that. And that's the thing. So we'll jump into the microtransactions. I just want transparencies from companies. Like, to me, what I think boils down to the whole issue of microtransactions for me is just transparency on what is the goal, why is this in the game in the first place, and what is the purpose. If your purpose is literally like, hey, every dollar you spend, here's the percent. Like, here, folks, like, just mass tweet. Here's how it goes. If you buy the game, we only get $20 from it because there's all these other costs. But if you spend $10 on microtransactions, we get all of that. So if you were to buy the game and spend $10 on this is what we would get in turn. And so if you really do support us and you really want this game to be the best it could be, or get new content, or have free DLC down the line, or all this stuff, this is the best thing that you could do for us as a company. Sure, like, fine. And if I don't, like, so what? Like, it's not like, oh, well, you told me where it's going, so like now I don't believe you. What's more shady is like, Activision, why are you not putting all these things on the disc? Like, why are you?
Yeah,
why?
It's just like what they did with Infinite Warfare or whatever.
Exactly.
The Modern Warfare 4.
Right.
It's like there's no reason. Like, well, the only reason is that you just want more money. So, like, if that's the reason, sure, but tell us that. Don't make it seem like you're giving us a benefit. Like,
right, it's like...
They always try and twist it like, oh, we're helping you. Like, you're not helping us.
Exactly.
At all.
Yeah.
Like, nobody agrees that digital is better, other than, like, storage-wise, than physical. Like, it's...
I feel like they're pulling the, is it the Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer thing, where he's like, now, you can go paint the fence, and you can have a lot of fun painting the fence. And we're like, no, like, I'm not painting your freaking, like, no, I'm not paying more for this. Like, give me what I paid for. Yeah, the whole thing with microtransactions to me is it's such a wide spectrum. And I think we're in I feel like a weird demographic in the gaming community, because I feel like there's the folks who grew up, or at least experienced the gaming from like Atari through the NES and the SNES and the 64 and the PS1, and these eras were like really up until the first Xbox, there was no such thing as like DLC and like internet anything. And it wasn't until like Xbox, the first one, with, you know, some of the Halo and things like that. And I don't even think the first Halo had DLC or anything, but
I don't think so. They might have added maps and stuff.
But I mean, that was the first time where there was an internet connection to even be a major widespread ability for people to use an internet connection to get anything or play anything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we were in that middle part where it's like we had access to the old stuff, but we also were coming in like our first home console was a Genesis, but then the first one we ever got for Christmas was like a Game Boy Advance or a GameCube. And so we got what we got. Like there wasn't, if a game sucked, it sucked. And if there were crazy bugs, that's just what it was. There wasn't a like, oh, there's day one patches and stuff like that. Whereas I feel like we are probably more angry. Us and the old school
I
folks.
think it's the evolution of things. Like you start out with having a full game. The game is full. It's there. There's bugs, but none of them are really game breaking unless you really try to find them or whatever. And then you get to the Xbox 360, like the game is still the full game, and they're like, hey, we have these things that we made, and we couldn't put them in the game because it would have just caused too much mayhem. Like, let's sell them as extra content, and people can buy them if they want, but it doesn't hinder your progress in the main game. And then day one patches start coming, because I don't even think the 360 had those all the time.
No,
like they could add.
I don't distinctly remember any. I don't remember day one patches becoming a thing until
like there was
the
patches,
era.
obviously. Like they would release updates, which you should do for software, especially in this day and age. It's just with the scale of things, it's just the way things go. But now it's like we get to the day one patches where like whatever. Now as soon as you get the game, you got to download a freaking like 5 gigabyte thing, and you're like, well, what if I didn't have internet? Like, do I just play the game in a crappy state because you were too like inadequate to create a good game in the first place? But like even day one patches, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like sometimes there's things you want to fix that you couldn't fix. They're not necessarily game breaking. But then you get people who are taking advantage of that, and it's like now they're using the day one patch as like an extra excuse of like, oh, we didn't fix everything, so now we'll wait till you get the day one patch and then everything will be fine. I'm like, the game should be fine when it comes out. Like that's what I'm paying for. I'm not paying for the day one patch. Like there might be a someday in like 10 years where we can't get this day one patch anymore. Like, are you going to put it on the disc eventually? Like, and then it becomes this thing with Spyro where it's like, oh, now people are basically indoctrinated into this mindset of like downloading things is fine. And now like, oh, we're just going to give you 2 out of 3 of the games you have to download you get the thing. And I'm like, how did we get to this point where like developers can be like completely, or not even, it's not even the developers probably, it's the publisher trying to skimp pennies on discs or cartridges or whatever reason they're coming up for it. But it's just like, how do we get to this point where like the consumer is just like completely backhanded? Like we don't really own a lot of the things anymore. Like we'd have to download all this crap when it was at one point it was all on the thing. And it's like, and that they did that with Fallout Game of the Year edition. All the DLC was just downloadable. People are like, that's stupid. We like the reason for the Game of the Year edition is so you have the disc with all of the stuff on it, so someday you're able to play it still. And so it's just like, I feel like this progression of like too much reliance on internet, too much reliance on downloads. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think I was listening to a video yesterday, or watching a video yesterday from this. It was like more art stuff, but I think the context could be reversed and applied to games as well. Is we're in a really strange transition where I think a lot of us have expectations of how things should be from how things were, and I think that is a result of a really unparalleled transition into a new landscape that like there is no reversion from. Like it's not like, oh well, all of a sudden one day the internet's just going to explode and it's not going to exist anymore. It's like it's only getting better and faster and more accessible and all this stuff. And so it just kind of dawned on me in this moment, because I think what's hard is I remember as a kid getting SSX Tricky, and if I wanted the crazy cool chrome outfit and board, I had to get it. I had to earn it. There wasn't a patch. There wasn't DLC. I didn't pay for it. I had to be freaking good at the game, and I had to get good at the game, and I had to learn and do all this stuff, and there was a reward factor in that. But I think in a weird way, you and I, when we've talked about this, it's always in the reward factor mentality of like, I am playing this and getting good at this and doing this thing as a reward for excelling at this game, versus where I feel like it is now, people are like, yeah, you could do that, or you could just pay for it and just have it, because at the end of the day, you just want it, right? So just pay the $3 because we get a cut and you get to have the thing that you want. And it's kind of like, all right, there's like a there's like a subliminal handshake I feel like that's going on with a lot of these transactions, and not that justifies it, but I think we're in a new reality in terms of how media is distributed, how media is handled. Like DVDs are still a thing, Blu-ray is still a thing, just because like I think they're going to be, Blu-ray especially, I think are going to be for a while, and even 4K stuff, just because streaming is going to be really hard.
I mean, I think even DVDs can last a long time.
Yeah,
because there's so many people who are just like, why would I upgrade to Blu-ray when DVD looks just fine? Like,
right, exactly, and it's a fraction of the cost.
Of the cost, yeah.
But I think like even with those landscapes, you get into like music now. Like music is in a weird place where now Best Buy doesn't sell CDs anymore. And I think it's phasing out, and I think we get riled up because, at least this is my perspective, I get riled up because I like having the physical thing because it's mine, and I don't lose it unless I like literally lose it, or I give it up, or I sell it, or something. Versus I don't like being at the whim. There's like a trade-off. We get simplicity. Like I love the fact that I can pay $10 a month, that Gloria and I can pay $15 a month and have Apple Music, and we can download as much stuff as we want.
Oh, absolutely.
However, like that's crazy. Like one album costs $10 a month. So for me as a consumer, yes, that's crazy. But there's also the creators out there. So like finding Thrice's stuff, it's like I can download their whole catalog in like 20 minutes and for free. But like not for free, but like
basically
for a third of the cost, or maybe even a fifth of the cost. Whereas like, you know, but then there's also the tricky dilemma of like, okay, but like how much of that goes to them as the band, and like how does that work? And then you get into the games realm too, where okay, well, if I buy digital, like I thought digital, I think more goes to them because it's actually like they don't have to recoup the production cost of the physical stuff. That could just be talking out of my butt, so I don't know. But there's a level of like, man, like it's tricky. Like I feel like it's trickier now, and I love the fact that there are patches. Like there are things that
that's the thing that I wanted to establish was like microtransactions aren't all bad, DLC aren't all bad.
We should also distinguish that patches are not microtransactions or DLC.
Yeah.
But specifically with microtransactions and DLC, I think I initially was really apprehensive to it because when I would look at it, it's like you're asking $20 for 5 hours worth of gameplay. I paid $60 for like 40 hours. Why on earth am I gonna do that?
Or like on when Bethesda released Creation Club for Fallout 4, it was like $8 for a suit of power armor, and I'm like, I paid $60 for this entire game. How is that scaling right?
Exactly.
Like, how is this piece of armor worth $8?
Right.
Like it probably took you like 2 seconds to make this. You already had the assets. You just made them a different color.
Right. Or better yet, like, why can't I earn this in the game if this is like so cool or whatever?
Yeah.
Or if it's really just retinting the skin, like give me skin colors for $10. Give me a color pack.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever. But this is where I feel like consumers are starting to be more critical of, and I think this is where I hope microtransactions and DLC and stuff go, is they need consumers or publishers and developers need to be I think they need to be incredibly clear about what this money is for and where it's going and what the rationale is. Because like at the end of the day, I think we get too snobby as consumers where it's like, you're asking for money? How dare you? It's like, but they like made the game to make money. Like that's the only reason. It isn't this like hokey art nonsense. Like, oh, we made games for game's sake. It's like they did, but they also knew that like it's a product and they can sell. Yeah. It's supposed to make money. The issue is when all of a sudden the quality of it interferes with that. The quality and the money start to interfere with each other.
And then you get Grand Theft Auto Online, which is just ravaged by microtransactions.
Right.
And basically destroyed their whole single player division because they were making so much money.
Right.
So it's kind of like microtransactions are good because it provides another source of income for developers and publishers to make money and afford to do things in the game that they could never do, because the $60 price point is like outdated, I think, as far as like, because if you think like if we were paying $60 for like Mario back in the day, and we're still paying $60 for a game that probably took hundreds of more people to make and like all this stuff, like I think it's just getting to the point where they're like, we need to figure out more ways of making money, which I'm like, that's fine, like we should do that. But if the game is becoming trash because you're introducing this stuff in it, then that's where I start to have a problem. Like if you can visibly see that the microtransaction culture is ruining like the game itself, you're just like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
Just to make money. Like, it's kind of like finding that balance of like,
definitely.
We do view games as art, as like a form of expression, but then when you introduce these microtransactions into it, it almost like elevates the entertainment aspect of it and kind of like takes away the specialness of it. Like, oh, I can just buy this thing now. Like, working 40 hours to get this suit means nothing because when people see it, they're just going to think I paid $20 for it.
Right.
And so it's like, why should I even try anymore? Because it's like, and why are we even trying to show off our arm around the game?
Yeah,
anyway?
exactly. No, well, and to me, like, I feel like it's a easy remedy, at least in terms of concept, is like have really hard armors that you can unlock that are only capable of being unlocked that look the coolest via playing the game, but then have other stuff that it's like you can just have it, like, or like you can buy it, and it's and attribute better value to the stuff that you actually earn. You know, like if it is a game where you get buffs or things or stat boosts, which like God forbid that happen, because that's where I start getting issues. Like, well, you can pay like $5 for a thing, and it actually gives you like plus this and this. It's like nah, not doing it.
Peace out.
But I think in terms of like, I think of one of my crowning achievements in my gaming life is I got all the pieces of the Hayabusa armor in Halo 3.
Oh yeah.
That was stupid hard. It took forever, and it was so irritating. And some of those freaking skulls and the level of difficulty you had to do, it was ridiculous. But it was
just
worth
like
it.
playing with that armor online, like you felt
it's
like you were a boss.
you never saw anyone, and you saw like maybe one other person. You're like, I know what you went
and
through.
You're like, we struggled.
It's like the
for
nod.
this.
We got that. We earned it. Whereas
nowadays it would be like you could still get the Hayabusa armor by doing all that stuff, or you could just buy it. It's kind of like,
exactly.
It's almost like all of this customization and all of these suits and all this stuff. It's like there's no point to having like anything like individual armor things because none of it means anything anymore.
Right.
In some ways.
Yeah. 100%.
Which sounds superficial. It's like it doesn't mean anything in the first place. But like you do get like with the Hayabusa armor, like you did feel that. You're like,
it is.
I worked hard to get this crap, like, and like I deserve the clout or whatever you want to call it. Like playing this game, like people look at me like I went through something.
Well, no, but I think that is what, if I had to hit on it, that is the exact thing that makes me irritated with microtransactions. Is it's not just like, oh, it was a good experience for me and it's a marker for me. When you walk out in the battlefield with the Hayabusa helmet and the samurai sword on your back, people are like, oh snap, this dog went through some stuff. Like,
he knows how to play this game.
He's played this game before. You know, and I think there was another legacy one where if you were one of the first like Xbox Live people who started, like you could get a helmet that was like on fire or something.
Yeah,
or like
that one was sick.
Like there were things like that where it's like when you saw that, you were like, I can never literally get this because it's not possible. Like that's rare. Like that's awesome. And that dude has that. Like that's dope. Whereas now, and everyone in the community who's into the lore of these pieces of armor, these things in it, it's like, yes, on the macro scale, none of it matters. It's stupid cosmetics for a fake game. Like, who cares? But there is the level of, it is a fun message to send of like, I earned this, and you all know how I earned this.
Yeah,
because like that's what it is. And so,
well, that's kind of what online gaming is too. It's
right.
It's competition. And
right.
So like being able to visibly show how good you are at a game is like has some weight to it in a game like that, and it's fun.
Yeah, because I remember in the early days like getting killed by people before I got the armor with the Hayabusa, and I was like, I wonder how they got that. And then you look and you see it, and you're like, oh man, like they're good. Like, and all of a sudden, like when you get killed by some of these people, you're like, you can almost tell the scrubs from the pros, like based on how they're dressed. And and I think for me, like that is almost what would make microtransactions more fun, is if they reintroduce that element. It's like, yeah, totally have these like
or like you still have to unlock the Hayabusa armor, for example, but you can buy skins, different colors for it. So like people see the armor, they're like, oh, he went through some stuff to get that. But then it's like camo colored,
or buy like a special pattern or something, or like you can get a special emblem or whatever. You know, like that would be cool. I'd be fine with that. But I think developers are taking away, and this is why I'd love to hear from someone in the industry, just be like very upfront and bold and honest about why they are doing it this way. Because to me, we had this talk at the coffee shop earlier, is like, if as a creator, I want to be paid for the stuff I make. Like that's always the dream. It's like, be paid for the things that you create. And it's always cool when someone's like, hey, what if you did this? If you did this, like, I'd pay you for it. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. And so I see it in the same way of these games. Like if I really like Overwatch, I've used this example before, but I love Overwatch. If it benefits them a ton for me to spend $5 on loot boxes or do this, or like spend money on the Overwatch League skins to help support the league and give them a couple bucks, like, yeah, sure. And in the grand scheme of economics, if you have, 100,000 players spend $5, that's $500,000 that you've just made, which is probably like the number of sales in terms of game copies equivalent. That's a lot. That's a big number.
Can you buy skins separately on Overwatch?
No.
Now?
Only
that's the thing that peeves me about those games, is the dumb gambling mechanics.
And that is my issue. And that is the issue I still have with Overwatch and the loot,
just let me
the loot
buy,
box
I'll
thing.
pay you for these skins, but I'm not buying a box for a chance at getting
right.
it. Yeah.
And to me, that's the thing where I think Overwatch, of all games, like, I would probably be more hooked than would be healthy if you could earn the skins by like
doing challenges or
being good, being
player.
really good at the game. And they kind of have that now with, like, you can get golden weapons if you play the competitive season and you rank up, but like that crap's rigged. Like, it's not, but you get stuck with like horrible teams. Like, I've had it happen so many times where, like, you can just tell the other team is just, it's just stacked with people who know how to play, and then I'm stuck with the scrub where they put, like, on attack, like, 2 snipers on the same team, which is literally laughable. Like, that's a meme in the community, is like, you literally are picking Widowmaker and Hanzo on attack, and we don't have a healer, and it's just like, you're idiots. Like, you're the reason we're gonna lose, and then we lose, and we get stomped, and it's like, now I lost, and I lost my competitive thing. So it's like, I'm never gonna get one of those golden guns, not because I suck, but because I'm playing a team game, and everyone I play with sucks, and so like. But if you could get a certain skin for, like, doing a certain amount of healing with a healer, it's like, it rewards you for doing your job. Like, that's what you should be getting players to do.
Like, when you find your main character or whatever, like, using that character and doing certain things with that character that only that character can do, unlocking skins for them, unlocking emotes, unlocking things, like, it basically would reward you for, like, being the best version of that character that you can be. But they don't do that.
Yeah. And to me, that is what frustrates me. But see, but that's the thing, is you could do skins or certain things that would, like, you could scale it. You could be like, the things that you have to earn are maybe cooler, or maybe look a certain way, or like maybe the stuff you pay for is like Halloween, for example, or like time of the year things. Like, hey, we're gonna have a whole bunch of new Halloween skins. Those you pay for. The rest of the year, you don't have those. Like, you can only get them at one point. Because then, to me, it's like, oh, that's like, they had a sick Dracula Reaper costume where he had this, like, kind of curved mask, and I can show it to you after. But, like, I saw it and I was like, oh, I want that skin so bad. But the amount of hours I'd have to play this game to get the potential to even unlock it is stupid. But if they would have had the option to spend $3 to buy it, heck yeah, I would have done that. It's worth it to me.
There have been so many skins for, like, Pharah and different characters. I was like, I would buy that, like, if I could, but I'm not buying loot boxes.
But I'm not buying loot boxes.
Because I've opened enough of them to know that they're crap.
Well, and that to me is like, again, if Blizzard's whole thing, and any company for this matter, is if their whole thing is microtransactions to that extent are the quickest way for them to make money that isn't filtered through vendors and all that crap, which I totally understand that level. Like, I on that mindset of just being a business, like, you're a business, you have to make money the most efficiently. And so if microtransactions is one of the ways to do that, do it in a way that we as the player know why you're doing it and want to support you on doing it. Like, I think there's a lot of people like the game Warframe, which is actually coming to Switch, and I did try out, and it is pretty awesome.
That looked pretty good.
Completely free, 100% free, but there's a lot of microtransactions in that game. Like, you can buy a lot of skins and a lot of things like that. But everyone I've heard who plays the game is like, I give them $60 in microtransactions because, one, it's free. I've put in 200 hours in this game. They're always releasing new content. Yeah, I'll give them $60, like, because I didn't pay anything for it, and this money goes straight to them, and it helps them build a better game and do all this stuff. And then you get a big fan base or player base who does that. The fan base is so supportive of that game and is so like, it sounds like is really cool. And just really loves it. And it's like, that's awesome. Like, like that's the kind of fan base you want. And like, that's what we as a fan base want to be. I want to be like, I love Overwatch. I love Overwatch so much. I will give you the $3 for the Reaper skin. Just give me the option. Like, please, for crying out loud. Like I did that with the Boston Uprising. Like they were the team I was rooting. They're kind of like my team that I root for in the Overwatch League. Like I got, I think it was like 100. You could get packs of 5 or whatever. It was like 500 coins, and it was like each skin was like 100, and so it was like maybe like $10, I think.
You could buy those separately.
You could buy the coins to then buy those separately.
Okay.
So you could buy. It's kind of like the Pokemon thing where you could buy an amount of coins, and then you can spend them or whatever. So
I hate arbitrary.
It basically, it was that part was dumb, but it was like, okay, if I spend $8, I can get 5 skins. Which I can get the 5 skins of the characters that I play the most. So I have Boston Uprising colors for characters of the 5 characters that I play the most. And I love it. And I love it because then some of those characters, it's like, it's going to take me a while to get a legendary skin for them. But it's kind of cool that I can have a cohesive, anytime I play Lucio, I'm Boston Uprising. Anytime I play Winston, Boston Uprising, Genji, whatever. And like, to me, it was like, okay, like, I like that. I was able to give to a specific thing, and then we still kind of get the messaging, the market, like the quote-unquote gamer-to-gamer marketing thing. When you go in, you're like, hey, he's a Boston Uprising fan. Or you see someone who's like New York Excelsior, who they're kind of rivals. You're like, man, I'm smoking for that dude. Like, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
You know? And it's fun. But it's like, but you have the option to buy it individually. And to me as a consumer, I don't want to gamble. I'm sick of this gambling crap. I just want to pay for what I want to get. Like, it makes me less inclined to want to do that.
Especially when it's not clear what the ratio is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, and for a whole bunch of stuff and the possibility of duplicates and all this nonsense, like, that's bullcrap. That's absolute bullcrap.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, not about it.
I agree.
I would say those are microtransactions, but how do you feel about like DLC and stuff? Because I feel like that's a little more complicated.
I feel like DLC. I like DLC. I think like thinking back on the 360 era, like some of the DLC for BioShock 2 was fun. Some like just story driven stuff. Or I loved all of the Fallout 3 DLC. Just like fun, wacky things that you'd never do in the main game. Just because like one of the DLCs is Mothership Zeta, where you actually get abducted by aliens in like the wasteland, and like you get to be on this alien ship and get all these cool alien guns that weren't in the game. Or like one of them is like a Cold War or a Alaskan War of Anchorage like simulation where you go into it and you have to like do these missions and stuff. And it's kind of stuff like that where I love DLC because, especially working in a software company, knowing how development processes work, like there's things you can't do. Like there, you get to the deadline and it's like, we can't afford to do this project. And so like you make sure the main game is good and you release that. And then I think like with games, that's then a way for them to get money for extra work. Cause like DLC takes time and money.
Definitely.
And so like with games like that, the DLC feels like you're getting what you're paying for. But then I feel like it's just being abused crap nowadays. Like games like Assassin's Creed where the DLC's on the disc, but it's locked and you have to pay for it. Or like you can only get this mission if you pre-order it from GameStop. Or like, I'm just like, that's ruining the gaming experience. Like if you're going to have a game, the full game should be on the disc, or at least you should be able to download it. Like the Spyro thing is a thing where I'm like ticked off about it, but I still don't think it's like, you're at least getting what you pay for in some senses. Mm-hmm. But like if the DLC is on the disc and you just have it locked until somebody pays for it, that's just shady. I don't know.
Well, and it strikes me as odd that these companies would not empathize enough with the consumer to be like, okay, if they find out that all this info is literally on the disc and the only thing that's keeping them from playing it is literally like buying a license, more or less, like they're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Because I would be pissed, and I am pissed that developers do that.
Yep.
Like there's no reason to. There's no reason to put all this stuff that is readily accessible and finished into this product and then just be like, oh yeah, but you can't play that unless you give me $20.
I think that's the wrong way to take DLC, and it ticks me off.
Did I show you the Mega 64 if pizza was
you did
microtransactions?
Yeah.
Brilliant video. I'm a huge Mega 64 fan, so if you want a really good laugh and a really good recap of like how ridiculous DLC and microtransactions can be, I think it's if pizza was microtransactions by Mega 64 is really, really, really funny. It's just like a perfect caricature of like the whole structure where it's like, we'll give you a slice of pizza, but then you got to pay $20 to get the rest. And they're like, I already paid $20. And he's like, well, sorry. Like if you want the rest of the pizza, yeah. Or like, it's like, well, here's the unbaked dough. It's like, but if you give us $20, we'll give you a full cooked pizza and the box. It's like, no, you're done.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. I think DLC for me is, I like DLC. I think DLC in a lot of instances is really good, but
do you think part of the issue, because I think this is the issue that I see in my mind, do you think part of the issue is that there is some DLC that is made for games that the game itself does not seem completed, and so then all of a sudden DLC stacked on top of it? So for example, if you just buy Fallout 4, you're getting a game that you could plug like 50 to 200 hours, and
there's
complete.
no DLC to finish the game.
Whereas like when you do pay for the season pass or whatever, you're like, okay, I'm getting a huge extra breadth of stuff on top of an already completed awesome game. Versus other games where I feel like the issue comes up of you basically just cut all this out so you could sell it. Like the pizza joke. It's like, I give you a 12-slice pizza, but there's only 8 slices. And it's like, well, where are the other 4? It's like, well, those are hidden behind a $12 paywall. Like, you can't have those until you pay. And it's like,
yeah,
I paid, I didn't even get the full pizza. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think for me, if the DLC becomes an excuse to release an unfinished game, then I'm just like, no, that's not DLC. You're just cutting off part of the game and making me pay extra for it. Like, and I'm fine. Like, I've always said this, I'm fine with them increasing the $60 price point on games. Like, if that means getting a full game and the $60 price point is just unsustainable at this point, then, like, why don't we raise the price? But it's kind of like, now it's just, oh, let's make an incomplete game and then make them pay extra for DLC, and it just feels weird to me. Like, I don't know.
When I feel like it creates a rift between the consumer and the developer, because if you really need money, like, just let me have more options to not spend like $20 on something that isn't valuable to me, versus like, well, I'm just gonna shave off all this stuff, put it in this other package, charge you full price for the other package, and then pay. But you know what? If you do it that way, it really helps us out. Like, that seems scammy to me versus like trusting your fan base to be, if you made a good product, like, they're gonna support you and back you, and that's where I feel like it just is really strange to me that companies don't seem super apt to want to be honest about it, because everyone knows why. Like, everyone knows why there's microtransactions. It's like, because you need to make money. But whenever you don't say anything about it, or you kind of give this very like
don't acknowledge
weird,
it,
ambiguous language, it comes across as like an issue. And then it's like, that's when people lose trust. But it's so, like, for me, the games that I've bought the DLC for Nintendo stuff so far, like Splatoon just got its Octoling expansion. I've heard it's insanely good, and at the end of it, if you beat it, you can play as an Octoling, or you can use, like, your character that you play in multiplayer can be an Octoling, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like $20. And it's like $20 for another like 20 something hours of gameplay, plus new characters and new skins and gear and stuff. Perfect. Like, that's a great value on top of all the free events that they've been doing and the stuff. Like, you don't have to pay for any of the cosmetic items. You can earn them all in game really easily. Like, and then on top of it, you get this whole new narrative expansion. Like, that's freaking cool. That's dope. Same thing with Breath of the Wild. I put, I don't know how many hours into that game. And then the DLC stuff that they released for it was really awesome. Like, some of the armor you can get is really cool. And like, some of the trials and the events, like, you can get a freaking motorcycle to like ride around, like, I'll pay the $20 for that. Like
Yeah.
for all the stuff that it came with, like the trials, the events, and things like that. So
Or there was the Far Cry 5 one. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've played any of those yet.
I need to
but
download those.
I think
I was
the
literally
Mars
just
one and the
thinking
Vietnam
of it.
one came
yeah,
out.
I was
But
literally just thinking.
it's like those are clearly not tied to the main game, other than the fact that it's probably the same person. Or I don't even think it is. I think
No.
it's different time periods.
yeah.
But it's just like, hey, here's a wacky adventure we came up with in the same type of play style. And like, would you pay us extra money for it because it took us time and money to make? And it's like not connected to the main game at all. And I mean, I don't have Far Cry 5 anymore, but like I bought the season pass because I was like, those sound amazing and hilarious and fun. And plus, it comes with Far Cry 3
and Far Cry, right? And
in that
paid,
instance,
like,
I was like,
$80
I
for
would
it or something like that.
absolutely pay for like this season pass because first of all, they told us exactly what we would be getting in the season pass. It's not like, oh, buy the season pass and you'll get a couple
stuff when it's ready.
Stuff things, and you're
Yeah.
like, and then with Fallout 4 that happened where it was like there was a couple story ones, but then it was like 3 of them were like warehouse expand or like the building expansion stuff, and I'm like, this isn't what I paid for. Like, this is garbage. I'm not paying $10 for more items to build things with. And so like I think both of the issues with DLC and with microtransactions comes down to transparency. I think like we all know it's about money, so how about we just stop pretending like it's not about money, that it's about like the Disney or the EA thing about pride and accomplishment or whatever. Like, no, this is about money. Like, you want money and we're willing to give it to you. Just do it in a transparent way that makes sense.
Right.
And we'll give you money.
Right.
And I think people are getting fed up with like weird practices and stuff. But the problem is it's the whales that are funding the whole operation. Like the people who are dropping thousands of dollars into this thing, and we're all kind of just getting flushed along with them because they're like, well, we're making money doing it, so we might as well keep doing it.
Well, but to me, like fine. Like if there are these 3 people who are spending like $1,000, which I don't know how on earth they have the money to just spend $1,000, or why they would want to spend $1,000 on one singular game, whatever.
Video games are
like,
life, man.
If that's their prerogative, like fine.
Yeah.
But like, stop with this crap of, well, we're gonna tell you that this is valuable and we're gonna attribute a value to it, and then that's a value you need to pay us. Like, no, it's not worth that. And so I'm not going to buy it. And they're like, well, now we're failing because games aren't as expensive anymore and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you just turn out crap. You charge it, you overprice it, and I'm not buying it. I'm not buying overpriced crap. Like, that's just as simple as it is. Versus what I think, I mean, we've been saying this the whole time, but it's just like, just be honest. We know it's okay. It's like, it's for like I feel like it's like with jobs. It's like, yes, I'm working because I want to work here. I also need money to pay for rent in my video games. Like,
yeah,
you know that. So if I'm like, making sure I get paid and stuff, it's like, that they're in the money of business. Like, money's a necessity. It is. It's okay. Like, you don't have to be freaky about it.
Yeah.
But don't do this weird like snake oil salesman, skit where you're like, well, hey, if you buy this and you get this, and it's like, no, that's crap. I'm not buying it. But then they hook the people that give them the most, and then it's like, I think that's where companies are going to start paying for it, especially with like EA and some of these other companies who are doing it more shady like that, is we're going to start seeing like a lot of fan bases die out and grow really like angry towards stuff, and they're going to start pumping money into games that don't do that because that's what's going to end up happening.
I think there's just too many games now where like people are much more fickle. Because even with the Fallout thing, like I follow a lot of like Fallout YouTubers and stuff, and like people are gonna buy it, but like everybody's just talking about it so pessimistically and like so like just disparaging it and stuff. And like they've had conversations with like Pete Hines and stuff on Twitter, and like they're just like trying to like put out all these fires because everybody's just so ticked off about everything, and they're not being transparent about like the system and what is going on and what's the DLC gonna be. Like, is it gonna be stories or just like weird gear and stuff? So
just honesty. I feel like honesty in general is just something for some reason that the business world has not.
They're trying to have
cracked.
their cake and eat it too. They're trying to be like the cool, like creative development company who isn't money hungry, but we're also money hungry.
Right.
Like,
I would
if
rather
you're money
you just
hungry,
say,
just like say it and be transparent about it, and like we'll give you the money if we think it's a fair value. Like,
right.
That's
it's
what
like
the market is.
Exactly. It's like, if I think it's worth it, I'll give you the money. I don't care really what your motive is, as long as you're not planning like world domination or to set us all on fire. Like, fine.
Yeah.
Cool. But I think that's just like practicing what you preach is like a very big thing for me in all avenues of life, and I think I'm starting to see that in my media and like the people who make it. Like if you're gonna tell me like, oh yeah, like we're all about the players and we're all about this, and then you do all this stuff that it's like you're full of crap is what you are. It's like I'm not gonna fall for that, and I'm not gonna give my time to you. But then there's people who it's like, hey, if you buy this, it really helps us out or it supports us. Like that would be great. Okay, if I think it's valuable, like yeah, okay, I'll pitch you a couple bucks. I can afford $3 a month for like this, and not even $3 a month, but I can afford $10 like this 1 month to give a battle pass to Epic. Like, whatever.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal. But
yeah,
honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy.
Dude, that would be the one thing that would be kind of fun to like get into gaming PR and just like completely go crazy with like, no man, we just really want to make money. Money's pretty cool. But if you give us more money, we can make even better stuff and we'll make sure it's better and we'll make more money. Good night. Good night, America. But
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a weird balance between people who view games as like
games as service
art form versus games as like entertainment, and it's kind of like a battle of those two sides constantly. And
it is its own thing, It's not like we have to pay DLC for movies and things like that, or like books. Like, could you imagine like if like books were that way? But that'd be kind of interesting. Like if you paid like
here's the full book, but here's a couple chapters that like follow up on.
Well, here's like backstory, or here's like things that
which in some ways you like authors do. Like they release a main trilogy, and then they're like, oh, I have like a book about this like main character or this side character. Like I wrote a story about them. Will you pay me for it? And people are like, heck yeah, I would.
Because I enjoyed it, and it's
similar
valuable.
Concept.
It's almost the exact same thing.
But then if you write 100% of the book, and then you're like, well, the first 30 chapters cost $7, and then if you want the rest of the book, you're gonna have to buy the second book for $10.
Right.
And you're like, wait, no.
Yeah, you're like, no.
How about just sell me the whole book for a good cost?
Right. So. Or even more so, I think to add on too, I think it's like really the other thing. I think one of the other big caveats is just like quality. Like if it's not good, like no, I'm not gonna pay you for this extra book. But if it's from an author that is, like if I don't know, like Stephen King or Ted Dekker put out something where it's like, hey, here's like a prequel to all this. Like I think he did that with his Red, Black, and White series. He released a book called Green, which was like a prequel book to the whole trilogy. It's like for like $12, like yeah, I'll get it and like read it and have it because I think it's valuable. I think it's a valuable read. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I'm so tired of this like, oh yeah, no, it's valuable. Trust us.
Wink. No.
Wait. Say that again. Trust us. Wink. Like, ugh.
Like,
you creep me out,
I'm gonna go ahead and cancel my pre-order.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna save the money.
Yeah, it's an interesting environment. I think games as a service plays into it too. That's a whole another beast. Destiny is basically one of the bigger ones in that field right now.
Shame.
It's shady. I think games as a service is one of those things that's like trying to work itself out right now into a way that makes sense because nobody's doing it that doesn't feel like you're getting ripped off. And I feel like games as a service could work for certain types of games because like with Call of Duty, it's like you're just pumping out the same game. Like, how about we just make one game and it's a service where like it just changes every year and like you release new content. And it feels like that's what Destiny's trying to do, but yet they still release sequels and stuff. And it's like the payment structure doesn't make any sense. Like, why am I paying $60 for the main game that feels unfinished? And then I have to pay $30 for a season pass for two things. But then there's a year 2 and I have to pay $40 for Forsaken DLC. But then there's another season pass for $30. And like, I'm just like, this is so confusing. Like
you're just shelling out money for ambiguous things that are supposedly coming. That's
and it feels like it's one of those things that if it was executed well and the game worked with that model, I think it is a good way for certain types of games to continue that revenue stream that you wouldn't normally get.
Definitely.
Because that, like, if Destiny didn't do that, it would just die every year, and they'd have to remake a new one every year. Because that's just how shooters are. Like, there's no longevity to them. Because once they're done, and that's how single player games are too. Like God of War was huge for a while, but now the sales are going to start dropping off just because like you beat it and you're done. And that's just how it works. So I don't know. I think games as a service is a whole nother beast that's mixing like traditional styles of gaming with microtransactions and DLC, and I think it's just a payment structure
I can hear Marky Mark. Our boy's calling.
But it hasn't. I think it just hasn't figured itself out yet. So I think we're in an interesting gaming landscape that I'm hopeful about, but also incredibly pessimistic about.
Yeah. And with that, we'll wrap up because I hear our little buzzer phone ringing.
Little buzzy buzz.
You can buzz into iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube to listen to our episodes. And you can check us out on Twitter at I am Phil Sorensen, Six Wing Creative, C San Pellegrino, and at Pop Culture Punks. I almost said at Pop Culture Punks podcast. And the podcast Twitter is at Pop Culture Punks. You can check our Redbubble page out. As I said, there's a new pixel art design on there.
About it merch.
Stop.
We should make a Christmas music video about buying merch.
That would like DLC. That'd be good. But yeah, so speaking of DLC and microtransactions, if you'd like to give us a little boost, get a cool piece of gear out of it, or if there's something that you would like to see on a t-shirt or as a piece of gear, let me know and I can make it for you and we'll throw it up there. And that's it.
Yeah, we will.
So
we won't. You will.
I will. Oh, I will.
I can't do jack crap.
And with that, we bid all of you a fond cowabunga. See you next week, folks.